Hi everyone, so today we're going to be discussing tips to help you build accessible LibGuide content. So here's an example of a LibGuide that I created for one of my LIS classes. The LibGuide is called An Introduction to Greek Mythology and is designed for children in grades 3 to 8 looking for an easy to follow overview of Greek mythology. So again, today we're going to be discussing how to make your LibGuide content accessible to those with disabilities. So yeah, these are some of the tips that I'll be sharing with you. The first is about color contrast. In terms of designing your LibGuide, just try to keep in mind, try to be mindful of those who have any type of visual impairment. And I think the best way to go is just to keep your colors to have a high contrast. So what to do is when you go next to the settings, go to this picture icon and go to tab and box options. And so here you can play around with the colors. As you can see, these are for my tab options, which I kept a dark purple with a white font. So here, just anything that I would say like a darker background and then white font, like you can't go wrong with that. And I just try to keep it consistent, so all my headers and my boxes and my tab options are all the same. The next topic that I want to discuss is alternative text. So what is alternative text? Alternative text, according to WebAIM, is text that provides a textual alternative to non-text content in web pages. So in layman's terms, if you're adding images to your LibGuides, they should contain properly constructed alternative text, like that conveys the meaning or content of that image. So if you scroll through my LibGuide, you'll notice, let me see, not on the home page, but let me just find an example of some images that I have. Okay, so again, because this is a LibGuide that is designed for children, it is important to make it appealing to them, and pictures are like some of the best ways to go about that. Making it colorful, making it entertaining as well as educational is very important. So one of the things I employed, which is one of my favorite features, is a gallery box, and I think kids would love this stuff. Here I just have an overview of the gods, and it automatically scrolls too, which is pretty neat. But if you notice, this gallery box in particular contains images with text within the image. So basically, these images, for example, if they were to be scanned by a screen reader, they would just overlook that entire image and that text wouldn't be read. So that's really important to keep in mind that, and because you see that I didn't even provide the text underneath, so what I basically did is, if you go to the settings, here is where I added alternative text. So this is basically to guarantee that those who are blind or those who have any kind of difficulties reading, to have it being read to them. That's what the alt text does. It will read the text to the user who's having difficulties and seeing it. So I basically copy that information about, like, for example, Zeus is the first god, and I just have like his information underneath the picture. I have it all typed out here in the alternative text field. So if you have something like that, or like a screenshot of something that has information in that image itself, you can provide it word for word if it's really important. Like, this is information that I do want the children to know, like about the gods and their symbols, or like their powers, etc. Like, this is all information that I want my users to know, so that's why I put it in the alt text field. And because it's not that much, they're bullet points and it's sufficient. You don't want to have like entire scanned pages. In that sense, I would say you should probably have it just typed out to begin with, like in some kind of like text field. Yeah, so I did that for each of the gods and just put it in the alt text descriptions. Going back, here I have videos. These videos I did not create, but so I wasn't able to add captioning for them. But what I did do is I added an annotation with it describing what it is that the video is about. So at least that information is there. So when, for example, the screen reader is reading, like this box here, it will read the Greek gods. And then it'll skip over to this and it'll say an animated introduction. So that then the user will know, okay, well, that's a video. Or even over here, I have a family tree of the Greek gods. So here I just put little text saying what it is. Always add annotations to pictures. Don't just have pictures there without any kind of context. So also here, if you go to the alternative text field, I just added something really brief, like Greek god family tree. That's the best way to do it. Just keep it simple. Try to like limit it to just like a few words, a sentence, but it should be as brief and succinct as possible. Okay. Okay, another thing that I want to talk about is another type of image is just those for like decorative purposes. Like this picture right here, this illustrates the book, which I'm talking about under mythological fiction, but I have text here that discusses it. So for example, it's a recommendation for these users, but the information is there for them. Without, like, the picture wouldn't have to be there for them in order to understand what I'm recommending. So because of that, you could just leave that field blank. You don't need to have an alternative text. And if you just leave the field completely blank, it will generate a null value. So there isn't anything you need to put in. What else? Let me see. Any other pictures that I have on here? Okay, so here I also have another gallery box, but if you notice this gallery box, it has pictures, but I have text underneath it. So in this case, I didn't put anything, any alternative text, because it will read, it'll say the Minotaur, and it'll say exactly what I wanted to say. And you don't have to be repetitive. I could have put alt text on each picture here saying what it is, the Cyclops, a picture of that, but it's really not necessary. It's just going to be repetitive. It's going to say the Cyclops in the alternative field, and then it's going to say the Cyclops again. So that's just kind of redundant, and you don't want to do that because imagine being read this information. You want to keep it as readable as possible. Another great thing to have is tabs. Tab boxes are great because it takes up less space. It reduces the amount of scrolling. And here, again, I do have pictures, but I have a captioning for it. I have the information underneath it. So in these cases, alternate text aren't necessary. So basically, if you're just putting pictures without like any information or any text surrounding that image, that's when you need to put alternative text. So yeah, hopefully that covers that. But also, I just wanted to say that just remember that users with any visual issues, as well as like mobile users or whatever, they will find too many images problematic. You don't want to keep it cluttered. Try to keep it as simple as possible. And the images that you do have, make sure that they serve a purpose. So just ask, like, or if there are, try to keep the ones that are just there for decorative purposes to a minimum. Like, just try to, yeah, basically stick to the ones that are most important. Okay, let's see, what else? Also, as far as being mindful of content that has a purpose, also, the ordering of your boxes is very important. So going back to like my home page, try to organize your page in a way that the most important content is at top. And not to say that any information isn't, but like what do you want them to see first? Because usually, like even screen readers, they read from like top to bottom. Or people who scan information, they'll go like from left to right. So try to keep the most important things at top. So here I just have my introduction, general information, and where to start. This is the information that I want my users to have at first glance. And then here I have a profile box with a contact me. Yeah, so let's see. The next topic that I wanted to discuss is links. So I do have lots of links throughout this LibGuide because I have online resources that are of value. But for example, I was going to talk about links that hyperlinks actually. So here, for example, I have some links within this text, and it will make sense to you like if you read it in context, but it'll also make sense if you just read it read the link alone. So here I have arts and humanities, classics, classical literature. So that will be read in a screen reader and it will make sense on its own. Or here I talk about source evaluation tab, which is a tab that I have at the top. I refer to that where they can just click and go to that for information on how to evaluate sources. So rather than say, please click here for more information, try to avoid things like phrases like that for embedding links, like click here, read more, and actually write out what it is. I wrote, and just for fun, try using the library thing, Greek mythologies tabs. This is something that will be read to them because screen readers can jump from like link to link. And so if they don't have the full context of what it is, like the read more won't make sense. Yeah, so those are just some things that I did to try to make my LibGuide more accessible. There are definitely more things you can do. For example, also keeping your text, the font of your text consistent throughout your LibGuide, that's also very important. I did not change my text. Here and there I did use bold or italics, but to try to emphasize information, but also like it's best not to use too much of that, or don't use color to convey meaning either. Like if you want to do something like that, use the headings. Mostly I think that would be best. So for example, here if I go to edit, here I use bolds, but they also have here the different heading sizes. That would be good too to use. Yeah, so I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about. This was very general and all over the place, but just some things to keep in mind. All right, I hope you found this information useful, and yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening. Bye.